Administration officials say President Trump will not block the release of California Republican Devin Nunes' controversial classified memo on the Russia investigation. The document alleges inappropriate surveillance of the Trump campaign by the Justice Department. The FBI issued a statement Wednesday saying it has, quote, grave concerns about the accuracy of the memo. And FBI Director Christopher Wray says he is prepared to issue a rebuttal if it's released. CBS News Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues has more from Washington.
How much did you like the memo?
The impending release of the memo touched raw nerves as the White House batted down rumors FBI Director Christopher Wray was going to quit in protest. Releasing the information, which is based on classified intelligence, is unusual. It all goes back to President Trump's 2016 campaign when the FBI and the Department of Justice went to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, or FISA court, to approve a warrant to monitor then-Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, who was suspected of having illegal contacts with Russian operatives. The 4-page memo, authorized by Republican Congressman Devin Nunes, outlines alleged surveillance abuses. And it has deepened a severe partisan divide. Democrat Adam Schiff says it presents a distorted and unfair picture of how the FBI behaved and jeopardizes the special counsel's Russia investigation.
They ought to be sending the message instead to the White House that were the president to fire Bob Mueller or Rod Rosenstein, that would be considered obstruction of justice, and it would bring down the administration.
House Speaker Paul Ryan denies it's politically motivated.
This memo is not an indictment of the FBI, of the Department of Justice. What it is the Congress's legitimate function of oversight to make sure that the FISA process is being used correctly.
Whether the FBI director will go to the mat to prevent the memo's release remains an open question. Chris Swecker is a former assistant director of the Bureau.
I'm not sure that this is that die-in-the-ditch moment for Chris Wray. I think he would resign if this were something that he really felt strongly about.
Tonight, former FBI Director James Comey, who was fired by the president, weighed in, tweeting, "American history shows that in the long run, weasels and liars never hold the field, so long as good people stand up." That is a reflection of how intense this controversy has now become. Elaine?
Jeff, the White House says it is currently reviewing the memo, which will likely be released Friday. Is there anything that could be done to prevent that at this point?
Well, it looks like the White House is moving forward with that. The question is, does this standoff with the FBI and specifically FBI Director Chris Wray have an impact on the president's thinking? The FBI has really been standing its ground here, and to see this unfolding, you just wonder what is next and what will the FBI director do next to try to head this off, to try to stop this from happening. But the question is, will whatever he does behind closed doors with White House officials, with top FBI officials, will it be enough to convince the president not to allow the release of this controversial memo?
Well, in your piece, you mentioned that the White House was knocking down reports that FBI Director Christopher Wray was going to resign over this. How likely is a resignation?
Well, that's a good question, but it seems to be another tool, perhaps, that the FBI and specifically the director of the FBI is using to convince the White House to take another approach to this. And we were running around the early part of today trying to figure out, well, are these just rumors, or is there some truth to what we're hearing, that Director Wray is threatening to resign? And no one we talked to really shot those rumors down. They didn't dismiss those rumors outright, which is why we kept pursuing this story today. And then you had the White House batting down some of these questions about whether the FBI director was going to resign. So the bottom line is there is still a lot up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen overnight. You'll just have to stay tuned tomorrow.
Well, how is this memo expected to impact Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation?
Well, there are a lot of people who think that this memo, by releasing it, you undermine the investigation, because at the heart of this memo, it raises questions about how the investigation began in 2016, over the summer of 2016. And so there are Democrats on Capitol Hill who believe that by questioning some of these surveillance techniques and questioning the basis for obtaining this FISA warrant to monitor the activities of this Trump campaign official, Carter Page, by questioning that, you question the very heart of this Russia investigation, and you question some of the people who are leading it. And that includes the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, as well as top FBI officials at the time. So there are Democrats on Capitol Hill who believe that this goes to the heart of the investigation and discrediting it.
And so to follow up then, Ranking Democrat of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff, warned the release of the memo could lead to a, quote, constitutional crisis. Is that what you were just referencing? Is that what he means by that?
Well, yeah, and to take it a step further, from the beginning, there have been people in the law enforcement / intelligence community who've said that ultimately this is all going to come to a head. And at that point, decisions will have to be made by members of Congress, and then you'll have to see how the White House reacts to this. And so when people on Capitol Hill here in Washington refer to this constitutional crisis, they are talking about this building tension. There is a lot of tension now, but once Bob Mueller comes to his conclusion, that's when there are people in this city who believe that's when this really comes to a head, and it could end with some sort of constitutional crisis.
Well, meantime, 3 attorneys representing Rick Gates told a federal court Thursday they are immediately withdrawing as counsel for the former Donald Trump campaign aide. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, Rick Gates is someone who was indicted along with Paul Manafort. He was Paul Manafort's business associate. Paul Manafort, being the former campaign chairman for the Trump campaign, so they were both indicted. But according to some people that I've talked to who've worked with Bob Mueller in the past, Rick Gates is sort of a sideline figure in that they don't believe he is the person that the special counsel is really going after, and that's why they believe that he is a prime target to strike a plea deal with. So what we think is happening now, there is some discussion of how his defense moves forward. Do they try to drag this out and take it to trial, or do they cooperate with the special counsel's office? And from what we're hearing, that is part of the discussion and part of the tension between the attorneys who are representing him.
All right, Jeff Pegues in Washington for us. Jeff, thanks very much.
My pleasure.